Welcome back to the Word Becomes You channel with Stevie K. We've got a very interesting topic to treat today, and this is a new segment that I'm offering to my page. If I come up with something that's important to treat, I'm going to treat it probably solo on my own, and we'll call it the Trumpet's Call. And let's get things underway. Okay, let's go to the first slide. Why are there two different sets of the Ten Commandments? That's a very good question, isn't it? And there's me with a very shocked look on my face. Well, I was when I first learned that myself, but I've been familiar with this for a while. The study of the Ten Commandments is very important, as we must remember that to break one of the commandments is to break them all, and that's very serious when it comes to redemption. I like to base my opinions on the Bible. Bible-based explanations are critical in my view. And if I quote from James chapter 2, verse 10, "For whoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all." So it's very important that we keep all the Ten Commandments, not just some of them. Okay. To do that, I'm going to look at the King James Version. The King James Version Bible is the one I prefer to use. It's translated directly from the Greek and is very, very accurate. Allegedly, when the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, the translations to the King James Bible were very close to the original Dead Sea Scrolls. So this is a very important thing to keep in mind. There's lots of studies on that online, so you can always check that out if you'd like to confirm what I have said. And please do that whenever I put stuff up on the on YouTube. Please verify it, and if you find an anomaly, you are free to come back to me and talk to me about it, please. Okay, the very opening of Exodus 21. And God spake all these words, saying, now, in actual fact, it was Jesus that spoke these words to Moses on Mount Sinai. God was present, but Jesus spoke these words directly to Moses and brought these commandments, or confirmed them. They were already in play, but confirmed them with the stone tablets. They were set in stone. They were permanent, never to be changed. Okay, so the first commandment, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Now that is an identifier. That tells you exactly who we're talking about. So that particular part of the commandment is very important. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So that's it. I am the one God, and I am the one that you worship. Second, they shall not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Makes it very clear, doesn't it, people? No graven images of any kind. And I don't use any graven images in my worship of God and Christ. I use the Bible and I pray directly to them. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Very serious charge, that one. Okay, you won't bow down. Now that's very significant because when you do the study of Daniel, the prophecies of Daniel, which I will put up here on my channel shortly, I'm working my way through the Bible studies I've already completed, and that's one of them. You will find that not only does Daniel get into severe trouble, in fact, he's thrown into the lion's den through not bowing down to worship Nebuchadnezzar's statue, but his three friends also actually found themselves in a similar situation. And they were thrown into an incredibly hot furnace, and they were joined in the furnace with, well, we believe the Son of God, Jesus, before he was even on the scene. He joined them down there, and again, that's another study which we do treat. And they were saved from the fiery furnace. So it's a very, very serious thing. We do not bow down to any man, any image, apart from the Heavenly Father and Jesus. It says they're visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So we're talking about their family line being basically cursed for third and fourth generation. A generation, I believe, is anything from 40 to 70 years. So you're talking about a very long period of time, depending on which definition you wish to go with. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So obviously, once your sins have been forgiven, then mercy will be afforded to you. So that's a very important commandment that covers a lot of areas. Let's go to the next one. Third, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Now you can take the Lord's name in vain in a number of ways. You can misrepresent the Lord's name. You can take false oaths. You can swear, which is a very common thing in America, as we see in the movies, and in Australia, is using the Lord's name in vain. But misrepresenting the name, weakening the name, altering the structure of the God and the Father, and all of these issues are all examples of taking the Lord's name in vain. So a very important commandment. The fourth commandment, I think probably one of the most important commandments that we have is that one, although they are all extremely important, as I've just mentioned. But this one is a seal, and the seal is the one that seals us for redemption. And then on top of that, the other commandments, and of course, your relationship with Christ and God. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Now, guys, the Sabbath. When is the Sabbath? The Sabbath, I can assure you, it's another Bible study, I suppose, but is from Friday afternoon at sunset through till Saturday afternoon at sunset. And that has never changed, never will change. It was in existence in the times of Adam before the flood, and it's in existence to this very day. That is the Sabbath, and no other day will fit. It is the seventh day of the week, is the Friday. 6 days, Friday afternoon till Saturday, is the seventh day. 6 days shalt thou labour and do all thy work. So you work through the week, but the Sabbath is a day of rest. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work. Now, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy strangers that is within thy gates. Now, that impacted on me fairly recently. I'm fortunate because I care for my wife full time. I have a friend of mine who comes in and does my lawns for me. Now, he was coming in on a Saturday because I'm reasonably new to all this in the last 2 years. And it took me a while to learn that I was actually breaking that commandment by having him work on my property on Saturdays. And I said to him, look, I can't have you here on Saturdays because it's a Sabbath. And he understands that. He's not a Sabbath keeper. But he respects that, and he does not come on Saturdays. He often comes on Sundays or during the week. So it's an important one to bear in mind. For in the 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested on the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So that's a blessed day. The Saturday is a blessed day that we need to keep, starting from Friday at sunset through to Saturday at sunset. In fact, I operate an opening and closing of the Sabbath on a Friday at sunset and a closing on a Saturday at sunset. And if you want information on that to join us online, then you can certainly email me and join us, which is a great little 20-minute service on those 2 days. Very important, that particular commandment. And again, there's a study involved in that all on its own. 12th, the fifth commandment, honour thy father and thy mother. Of course, we need to honour our father and our mother. And look, to be honest, there's lots of different kinds of mothers and fathers in terms of how they raise their children, etc. But it is important to honour your father and your mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Okay, so this particular commandment actually lets you know that God's observing the situation, and if you do not honour your mother and father, then there will be penalties, and he is the person that will penalise you. He is the person that will judge you. No one on this planet can judge you except God and Jesus. That's it. That's the end of the discussion on that particular matter. So that's a very important commandment as well. And there's lots of different ways you can honour your mother and your father, and we can probably look at that in another study. Thou shalt not kill. I think that's fairly obvious. But it also has lots of implications, because not actually killing is a very important thing, which is something that's placed on people from time to time when they're pushed to go to war. But I'll look at this a little bit later on when we go through the comparisons. 7th, thou shalt not commit adultery. That's clear. And again, we'll talk about this more when we get into the comparisons. Thou shalt not steal. Some other examples I've got for you in our treatment. The ninth is thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour, and that carries a lot with it, which we'll look at in a little while. And the last commandment, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbour. So again, they are the 10 complete commandments. And something you may not have noticed, which is quite interesting, I'll share with you now, is this. The first 4 commandments are between God and man. Okay, they are the seal, and they are very, very important. They aren't the seal, but they are very important between that you hold these covenants between the Father and yourself. And the bottom 6 are, of course, between mankind, and they are the rules. They are the laws as set down by God and Jesus. Okay, so they're very, very important. Okay, now what I want to do is look at the other examples of the 10 Commandments. And of course, we have 2 of those. The Catholic Church 10 Commandments, and we have also the Catholic Church Catechism memorization version that I'm talking about today. And let's look at those. I want to compare them to make sure they're pretty much identical, because I'm not going to take all 2 through. I'm just going to take one of them through and compare them to the King James Version. The first is, I am the Lord your God. You shall worship the Lord your God and give him and in him only shall you serve. The one underneath that is, I am the Lord your God. You shall not have strange gods before me. So they're pretty much the same. That's all right. The next one is, second, the commandment is, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. The second one down the bottom is, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. So they're the same. Third, remember to keep holy the Sabbath day. The bottom one, remember to keep holy the Sabbath, the Lord's day. Okay, pretty similar. Honor your father and your mother. Honor your father and your mother. Exactly the same. You shall not kill. Exactly the same. You shall not commit adultery. Exactly the same. You shall not steal. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbour. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbour. You shall not covet your neighbour's wife. You shall not covet your neighbour's wife. And the 10th, you shall not covet your neighbour's goods. You shall not covet your neighbour's goods. So, okay, we can clearly see that both the Catholic 10 Commandments and the Catechism memorization versions are the same. So I'm going to carry this through now to the analysis and the comparisons between the 2. Okay, let's go to slide 4, and we're going to now do a comparison between the King James Version of the 10 Commandments and the Catholic version of the 10 Commandments and see how similar they are. Okay, let's go to the Catholic version here. As we can see, they're quite a bit different. The King James Version has 2 verses, whereas the Catholic one has but 1. When I read this, I am the Lord your God, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. It brought to mind, it was a familiar verse to me, and that's Luke chapter 4, verse 8. And Jesus answered, you might remember this verse from where Jesus is baptized, and the Spirit takes him off into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. And during that time, Satan tempts him while he's fasting and surviving out there in the desert with no food. He obviously had water, and Satan was constantly tempting him. And he maintained the faith. He didn't buckle down under Satan. But let me read Luke 4, chapter 4, verse 8. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt they serve. Okay. So what are the differences between these 2 versions of the first commandment? Well, in the King James Version, as I mentioned earlier, this identifies exactly what God we're talking about. We're talking about the one true God that freed the Israelites from Egypt out of bondage. And it makes it very clear that you are to have no other God but the one true God. The one down the bottom, I am the Lord your God. It does not establish exactly who we're talking about. You shall worship your Lord your God, and him only shalt they serve. As I said, it's a reference there to in my opinion, to Luke 4:8. To be frank, this could truly be any God. It does not identify the one true living God, which is the situation I feel exists in that particular comparison. The actual identity of God is not confirmed. He is the one true living God who brought the Israelites out of Egypt and out of bondage. This event was significant and defining, and that's the impact I feel on those Ten Commandments. Okay, let's move on to slide 5. This is the King James version of the second commandment. We've already had a look at that. Let's have a look at the Catholic version. It's not represented, folks. It's been removed. Um, and I think this is a very important commandment. As I said to you, let's have a look at the outcome here, which I've summarized in the impact. The second commandment has been changed. The commandment deals with graven images of any kind. The fact that one should not bow down to anyone or thing, not serve them. This commandment highlights the mercy of God, a God of love. So it's a very important commandment. Bit of water. So it's a very important commandment that has been omitted. I suppose if you look at the Catholic faith, there are lots of images used in the worship in the Catholic Church, right down to worshipping and bowing down before the Pope and priests. And this is something that I can't relate to, and but it is a foundation of the Catholic Church. So I guess that is why it was removed. However, it does beg the question that one should not be changing the Bible by any possible way, and we can see here that that commandment has been completely removed. So yeah, when it comes down to not changing the Bible by one jot or tittle, then certainly that has been obviously changed. Okay, let's move on to slide 6. This one is, Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. The second commandment in the Catholic Church is, You shall not take, the third commandment by comparison, but it's the second in the Catholic one. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. And the impact it has on the commandment is these commandments are similar. However, it makes it clear that God will make judgment on those that ignore this commandment. That's in the King James Version. The King James Version makes it clear that no man is to make judgment on another. This is important in terms of our capacity to forgive others. Now, again, the Catholic Church, not that I'm familiar with the Catholic Church, I'm not a Catholic, but I do understand that they have confessions, and they are confessing their sins to a priest or to the Pope or to some other part of the hierarchy, and they are then forgiven. No, that can, in my faith, no, that can't happen. It's only God and Jesus, which is probably why that commandment has been adjusted. So, the different ways that we can take the name of the Lord in vain. Let me read this to you. You can swear, you can take a false oath, you can make false claims in the name of God, treating God's name lightly, empty, or without reverence. This is an important component that is missing from the Catholic version. In their church, the Pope and his priests all carry the authority to forgive sins. This is doing the work of God through Jesus Christ and is not something that can be actioned by a man or woman. This may explain why it is not included in the Catholic version. The concept of forgiving sins is paramount in the process of redemption. And here's where it's important to those of the Protestant faith. So the process of redemption and is awarded to Jesus Christ as a result of him making the ultimate sacrifice for all mankind. His death is the ransom that was paid by him for each and every one of us. It is his gift and promise to everyone on this planet that is a basic foundation to salvation through faith and the Protestant doctrine. This must be held sacrosanct to all on this planet without exemption. Okay, so that's a pretty definite stance from the Protestant side, and a very big variance between the two forms of the commandment. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Remember the Sabbath day. Now, as I said earlier, this is a very, very important one to the Protestants. Let's look at the Catholic version, which is their third commandment. They're one behind, of course, because of the second commandment. Remember to keep holy the Lord's Day. Now, the Lord's Day doesn't really specify which God we're talking about or the actual specific day. I think the one above is quite specific and details it extremely well. Let me read to you my notes. While all the commandments are important, this is one of the most important commandments of them all, as they offer a seal of faith to true Christians. For a seal to be legitimate, it must contain the following. So remember back in the days when kings used to offer their seal on a piece of writing and then send it with a messenger to another place. They put a wax seal on it. Well, that seal had the name of the owner, the domain, the time stipulation, those that are governed by it, people, this is the seal, grand implications concerning redemption and probation. This day was blessed by the Lord, and thus it is sacred and must be maintained by all Christians. Okay, and that's really not negotiable, guys. That is the way it's very set out and very clear in the Bible. And the day that one must keep as the holy day, as I said, Friday sunset, Saturday sunset. So it's critical. And obviously, we can see a huge variation there in the Catholic version. Okay. The impact. In the KJV, the day is made holy, and then a full description follows. It's crystal clear that the Sabbath, the Lord's Day, and the seventh day, Friday sunset until Saturday sunset, it stands as a seal between God and man. The Catholic version is behind one commandment at this point. I've just added in here, I have a great video based on the importance of the Sabbath and how it was changed. You might like to check it out after this presentation, and it's called The Sabbath Defense Affidavit, and it's on my channel, very easy to find. Let's go to the next one. The fifth commandment, honour thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. And the fourth commandment, in this case, we're still one behind, with the Catholic version is honour your father and your mother. Slide 8. I'll just go to the impact first. These both establish that both mother and father should be honoured, but God has been removed from this commandment in the Catholic version. The inference that one's existence within God's realm may be shortened if man does not comply has been removed. God's ownership of the territory ignored. The Catholic version is behind one commandment at this point. I've also written in my notes here, removing God from this commandment is removing his reverence from this commandment. The fact that God is prepared to initiate any form of sanction to those that fail this commandment is a testament to its importance. So, again, one jot, one tittle, you don't change the Bible, you don't change the commandments. It's a bad thing to do. Okay, let's go to slide 9, and we're up to the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill. Okay, you shall not kill, pretty much the same in the Catholic version as well. Clearly, these commandments align. However, at this point, the Catholic version is behind one commandment. Yeah, I've put in at this point again. I've already mentioned Hacksaw Ridge. Well, I didn't. I'll mention it now. There's a great movie called Hacksaw Ridge, and it's about a Christian. He was a Seventh-day Adventist who joined the army, but from the beginning of the army, I believe he went to Korea at the time. He refused to carry a rifle and went through a lot of challenges to actually make that happen. But he was in the end of the movie, and I don't want to completely spoil it for you. But I suppose I am if I tell you this. He was awarded the Purple Heart, and it's interesting watching the movie to see how that happened. At no time did he lay his fingers or his hands on a gun of any kind, and he made it right through and saved a lot of lives in the process. So that's a great movie to watch. But this is the extent of this particular commandment, people. And I know it would be a bit difficult for the army to accept, as it was for the guy in Hacksaw Ridge, for the army that were working with him. But that's what he did. He was committed to God, and he would not break that commandment. And good for him. Okay, Acts 5:25. I'll quote to you. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. And of course, that goes without saying. And Matthew 22:21 is another reference of this kind, which says, they say unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. And when it comes to these commandments, God overrules Caesar, or any other man-made device or policy or law. And these laws overrule them. And that's actually a legal maxim in law. But there have been people that have applied it and got themselves in a lot of trouble. But these are the decisions you've got to make. Are you going to stay with the commandments or not? If you've got any comments to make on that, please leave a comment and I'll do my best to respond to them. Okay, let's go to the seventh commandment. Thou shalt not commit adultery. This is a very important one, folks, on a lot of levels, particularly in the times. I mean, I'm 69, so I grew up in the 60s, and I'll establish a relevance to me saying that in just a moment. Okay, thou shalt not commit adultery, you shall not commit adultery. They're basically the same. The impact clearly of these commandments align. However, at this point, the Catholic version is behind one commandment. Okay, slide 10, let me share with you my notes. This too is an important commandment that has been completely overlooked by society. God expects man and woman to remain divided until they come together, and through marriage before God, they would then consummate the union and become one. Now, that's a very, very ignored principle in this world today. And as I said, the 60s had a lot to do with that. Through the rock music we went through, I mean, I'm a musician myself, and through the music we went through the practices, through the pill and contraception and all these things, that particular idea and ethic and morality was thrown out the window, and a lot of good reasons were supported why we should have thrown that out the window. But that is not agreeing with the commandments of the Bible. And as I said, I'll just read that part again. God expects man and woman to remain divided until they come together, and through marriage before God, they would then consummate the union and become one. Satan was very busy over the 60s in particular to completely remove this requirement from the lives of most men and women these days. The problems that accompanied this would amount to quite a broad time-consuming study, perhaps another time. I will reference to you, though, an interesting video that I watched this week called They Sold Their Souls to Rock and Roll. And of course, I was very interested in that and I watched it. And it is a fantastic video. I think you'll find you can find that on YouTube. And hopefully when I'm doing the edit, I'll try and pop a link down the bottom for you so that you can check that out. A very, very good, well done video. And it really opened my eyes in a number of areas. Okay. The eighth commandment, thou shalt not steal. Okay, that seems pretty obvious. And of course, the Catholic one is identical. So clearly these commandments align. However, at this point, the Catholic version is behind one commandment at this point. Okay, while this is obvious, do we all apply this in our own lives? We've all taken advantage of an unexpected score from time to time. I'll share with you a brief story that I experienced, and mind you, I have taken advantage of scores in the past too, where I don't know, you get something for nothing and go, gee, I was lucky I didn't have to pay for that, and you walk out and you don't worry about it. On this particular occasion, I went to an IGA store over in YE, which is near my area here. And my wife, as I mentioned before, she's not well, and she took something, and I just didn't see her take it. And we went through the checkout, and I got out the other side of the till, and I went outside, and I looked down, and I thought, I don't remember buying that. And I'm trying to remember what it was now. It might have been a bag of lollies or something. I forget what it was. And I thought, oh, look, I won't worry about it. And I was about to go get in the car and I thought, no, hang on, that's stealing. And I thought, no. So I walked back into the shop. Much to the surprise of the checkout lady, she said, is something wrong? I said, look, my wife accidentally took this. Can you just run it through the till? She said, oh, really? She said, oh, okay, yeah. And she ran it through the till. She said, you shouldn't have worried about it. I said, no, do the right thing. And she was quite surprised. And it's just it's a little thing, guys, but you don't steal. It's that simple. If you can't apply to that, don't go shopping. Just don't steal. It's something you can't just simply. You either go along with it, you're either in or you're out. It's not. There's no half measures. And well, let's face it, we can rationalise just about anything if we want to. On this occasion, I did what was right. I share this with you as an example. On occasions in the past, I would not have necessarily made the same decision. I've changed. We can all rationalise just about anything to be okay if we want to, and we certainly can. Okay, slide 12. And now we're up to the ninth, so we're getting very close to the end. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour. No, we shouldn't. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbour. Pretty much the same. Clearly, these commandments align. However, at this point, the Catholic version is behind one commandment. Slide 12. This is another commandment that we can overlook in terms of its importance, and we shouldn't. Bearing false witness may take many different approaches. Think about this. Sure, selling someone a dud car or product, that's the obvious one, isn't it? Providing less than honourable services, we can delve much deeper in terms of actions that are carried out under the name of politics and putting a spin on certain things to make them more palatable to the electorate or to the public, to your customers, etc. Think of the implications over the centuries and in recent times even, where products have been devised to make people a lot of money and perhaps not such a good impact on the people that use them. And there's so many examples of this, and it's probably one of the most devastating thing that plagues our society. So it's a really important one. And if you really consider what is written there and apply it to your own life and what you do in business, and think about how that applies to the way you should or shouldn't function in the role that you are applying in your work from week to week. It's very, very important. Okay, let's go to slide 13, and this is the 10th, the final commandment from the King James Version. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's house, nor shalt thou covet thy neighbour's wife, nor his manservant, his maidservant, nor his ox, his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbour's. So that pretty much completes everything. And don't forget, the neighbour is not just the person that lives next door. The Catholic version is, and it's still only their ninth commandment, you shall not covet your neighbour's wife. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's part of the 10th commandment. The impact, strangely, only a portion of the King James Version 10th commandment is presented here. The commandment is weakened considerably as there's no reference to property, assets, possessions, and employees. Let me read you my notes. We can see that the King James Version covers all possessions of your neighbours, and we need to bear in mind that your neighbour is not a reference to just those that live around you. This applies to all people you encounter in your life, people. Okay, when we consider the quote from Mark I made earlier, can we afford to break any one of the commandments if we seek redemption? No, we can't. And it's very, very important. Okay, let's move on from here. And we go to, well, there's no offering for the King James Version because we've already done the 10. Let's see what the Catholic Version has. You shalt not covet your neighbour's goods. Not really as complete as the full impact of the version in the King James Version, but quite clearly, people, the ninth and 10th version in the Catholic is a split of the 10th commandment to make up the 10 commandments. Very awkward and not very tidy from my point of view. Impact, it's clear that the King James Version commandment has been split over the last two commandments to make up the missing second commandment. While the original commandment has been split, it has not been properly represented in these last two commandments presented by the Catholic Church. I think you've got to agree with that. And please, anything I place on my channel, people, check it out in the Bible, check it out on other sources, and please come back and challenge if you think it's wrong, because we are seeking the truth here. And this, I can tell you now from my research, is the truth. Okay, my notes. It seems a poor replacement to literally split the last commandment to make up the omission of the second commandment. However, this is what was done to maintain the 10 commandments. The effect is a weakening of the commandment and committing the ultimate sin of changing the 10 commandments and thus changing the Holy Scriptures, which is something that shouldn't be done, not by a jot, not by a tittle, quoting from the Bible. Okay, so what? Does it really matter? Well, oh yeah, it does. Okay, let's go to the Bible, and because I like keeping things Bible-based. Matthew 5:17. Think not that I am come, this is Jesus talking, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. 18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. And that was Jesus' promise in terms of what he was intending to do with the laws as presented. Not even Jesus came to change the law. He came to confirm it, to fulfill it, and indeed he did. In my view, one of the toughest men that ever lived on this planet was Jesus Christ, because at any time he could have gone just like that and stopped everything that happened around him, but he saw it through. A very, very tough man. It is clear that, in summary, the Ten Commandments have been altered and replaced with an edited version. The second commandment has been completely removed. The Sabbath has been weakened so that it might apply to any day of the week. This is not correct. The commandments have been weakened to support the Catholic doctrine, and I think that's a reasonable claim to make. And not acceptable, of course, if you are a Protestant. Check out my video, the Sabbath Defense Affidavit, for a better breakdown as to how this was done. And there it is right there. We've got Joshua 24, verse 15. I don't know what the 5's doing there. Obviously a typo. And it is, and if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I love that quote. I think it's pretty to the point, exactly where I am. And in any case, please don't forget, like, comment, share, and subscribe. I don't monetize my channel, and I don't ask for donations. I'm just interested in sharing the truth, and it'd be really able to help me if you like, comment, share, and subscribe to get more people coming along. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I look forward to reading your comments. Please remember to like and subscribe. These are my notes, this video, and please share it with your friends. As other important items come to the surface, I'll be putting up further versions of the Trumpet's Call. See you then. See you again real soon from Stevie K, and blessings to you and your loved ones. Bye for now.